The scientific evidence is clear. Climate change is the greatest environmental threat of our time. And unless the whole world commits to tackling this problem, our planet and our lives will change drastically for the worse. Climate means the average weather of a place. It includes factors such as temperature, precipitation, humidity, and wind. A climate is important in shaping ecosystems, economies, and culture. Climate change is when the regular climate patterns of a place changes. Our climate is changing rapidly across the globe. Rising levels of carbon dioxide and other gases, called greenhouse gases, are causing heat to be trapped in our atmosphere, which is causing global temperatures to rise. This is called global warming. Greenhouse gases are those gases that absorb and emit infrared radiation. That is, they trap heat in the atmosphere. Some occur naturally, such as carbon dioxide, methane, water vapor, and nitrous oxide. There are also man-made greenhouse gases: chlorofluorocarbons, hydrofluorocarbons, perfluorocarbons, as well as sulfur hexafluoride. These gases are called fluorinated gases. While carbon dioxide occurs naturally, it is also man-made. In fact, carbon dioxide is the main greenhouse gas caused by human activity and largely responsible for global warming and climate change. Carbon dioxide is measured at the Mauna Loa Observatory in Hawaii. Carbon dioxide measurements were first recorded in 1958. In 1959, following the first full year of measurements, the carbon dioxide levels were 315.97 parts per million per year. It is presently 398.29 parts per million per year. Since 1958, CO2 concentrations have increased year after year. CO2 levels have actually been increasing since the Industrial Revolution, when manufacturing took off. The present concentration is highest ever in the past 800,000 years, according to the measurements taken from ice sheets. Some scientists believe that the levels are the highest over the past 20 million years. Climate change has very serious effects on our planet. As the planet gets warmer, many changes start to happen. For starters, the ice sheets start to melt, causing the sea levels to rise. Floods and droughts become more common, and hurricanes and storms become stronger and more frequent. Also, as the oceans absorb more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, they acidify, causing coral to bleach, algae to die, and with this fish too. Other changes are less evident. Some insects, plants, and animals move further north seeking the climate that best suits them, while others that are not able to move become extinct, disrupting ecosystems. Diseases will spread like malaria carried by mosquitoes. There will be less fresh water available as salt water leaches into the freshwater systems, and there will be greater uncertainty in agriculture because of all the above factors: droughts, floods, salinization, storms, and loss of land space. Some changes are very specific. For example, as the ice sheets melt, polar bears have less space to live and hunt. They are becoming skinnier. It is likely that if global warming continues, polar bears will also become extinct. Of course, the effects of global warming are not just environmental. Human health, settlements, economies, and industries will also be negatively affected. For example, food and water shortages in some places will likely trigger mass immigration. Some places are already being strongly affected by climate change. The Alps, for example, have been warming at 3 times the global average, pushing back the snow and ice up the mountain. The Alps attract 60 to 80 million tourists a year, taking part in the winter sports industry. The many different businesses that support the industry are closing or reinventing themselves. For example, the mountains may prove to be a good summer vacation spot for those trying to escape the heat. The Pacific island nation of Kiribati is another example of a country feeling the strong consequences of climate change. Kiribati is the first country to declare that global warming has made their country uninhabitable. The country is seeking to evacuate its population. King tides are really high tides. These tides used to cover the island every 3 to 4 years, but now the king tides cover the island every 2 to 3 months, affecting freshwater supplies, sewage systems, and depleting the quality of the soil. Global warming would affect the Caribbean as well. Rising sea levels will cause coastal erosion, flood beaches and property, and damage infrastructure such as roads. This will have a negative impact on tourism, the region's most important industry. The rising sea levels may also impact agricultural land and water aquifers because of salinization, salt from the seawater. The acidification of the oceans will cause coral to bleach, algae and fish to die, and will therefore affect the region's fishing industry and food supply. There is likely to be more droughts and floods, as well as more frequent and more powerful hurricanes and storms. The Ndiaye Country Index, compiled by the University of Notre Dame, ranks the vulnerability to climate change along with the readiness to improve resilience for all the countries in the world. The least ready and most vulnerable countries to climate change are countries in Africa. They include Eritrea, Chad, and the Central African Republic. The lowest ranked countries in the Caribbean are Haiti, Guyana, and Belize. Antigua and Barbuda is the second lowest ranked country in the Caribbean in terms of vulnerability, after Haiti. The countries least vulnerable and best prepared are New Zealand, Norway, and Denmark. Barbados ranks 47 out of 180. According to another study, the Global Climate Risk Index, prepared by German Watch, the countries that have been most negatively affected by weather events over the past 10 years are Honduras, Myanmar, and Haiti. Animals and plants are also being negatively affected by climate change. In fact, 1 in 4 of the Earth species, or up to 1 million species, may be extinct by the year 2050. The first documented species extinction due to climate change is the golden toad, once found in Central America. The last golden toad was seen in 1989. The golden toad disappeared because of drought and other changes to its environment. Other animals that may soon become extinct include the ring seal, which is dependent on sea ice for resting and mating, and the American pika, a cold-adapted mammal, which is highly sensitive to thermal stress. It is said that 100 species disappear every day. Climate change has a role to play in this loss. How can the world's nations halt climate change? Countries fight climate change by implementing climate policies. Policies are rules that citizens and companies must follow, such as those regulating greenhouse gas emissions or mandating the use of solar power. It seems that the world is finally getting serious about climate change. 150 countries submitted climate change plans to the United Nations in March 2015. These are voluntary plans to cut out greenhouse gas pollution, known as Intended Nationally Determined Contributions, or INDCs. A report has shown that the INDCs may limit climate change rise to 2.7 degrees Celsius by year 2100. This is not enough to avoid dangerous climate changes according to scientists, but it is better than the 4 degrees Celsius to 5 degrees Celsius of warming projected before the INDCs, and will amount to 4 billion tons less of carbon dioxide emissions in the atmosphere. A new agreement will also be adopted at a meeting in Paris, France in December 2015, which will host delegates from almost 200 countries. This agreement is important because, unlike the INDCs, it will be legally binding, meaning that the agreement will have legal force and is not voluntary. The objective of this agreement is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to limit the global temperature increase to 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. This is a safe limit according to scientists. There are also country-specific examples. The United States is the world's largest polluter after China. In August 2015, the Environmental Protection Agency introduced new rules that will reduce carbon dioxide emissions from power plants for the first time ever. Previously, power plants were allowed to dump unlimited amounts of carbon pollution in the atmosphere. There are also smaller initiatives to combat climate change. A common initiative is tree planting programs. Trees absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere during photosynthesis. A report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change shows that tree planting could remove 1.1 to 1.6 tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere per year. China is the world's largest greenhouse gas polluter. They are building a 2,800-mile belt of trees that will not only serve to reduce carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, but will stop the advance of the Gobi Desert. Overall, the country has planted 13 million hectares of new forest since 2008. The fact of the matter is, our climate has changed and will continue to change. At this point, all of our best efforts can only serve to slow climate change. It will take a very long time before our planet and our climate can actually begin to repair. The positive actions of the big industrial nations are vital to slowing climate change, but all of us need to make our own small efforts as well.